You know, I know what you're thinking right now. You think I'm crazy. You think I'm nuts. Look at this. Blizzard-like conditions right now. Snowing, the snow swirling. Look at it. It's actually swirling around my head. It's freezing out here. It's in the 20s, low 20s. That water temperature is going to be in the high 30s, low 40s. You think I'm crazy. But this is one of the best times to bass fish. When it's snowing, it means one thing: low pressure. A low pressure system when it's snowing, it's one of the best times to knock it out of the park for a big bass. Come on, let's go. Oh yeah, this is the kind of conditions I'm talking about. Look at this. Look at this. I'm the first one to set foot on this. Look at this deck. Should probably empty the water out of the boat. Maybe.
Might be something to do.
That might be good. Let me do that real quick.
A little bit of water in there.
Not really part of the show here.
Boats typically float better when there's no water in them.
Typically they float better when it's... See, this is double dipping right here. Actually using the water to clean off my Hobie. Maximizing time. Professional anglers always maximizing time. So this is true wintertime fishing. You can't get more winter than this. It's snowing. This is ridiculous. It's swirling. It's cold. It's freezing. You don't need a lot of rods in the wintertime. Honestly, I call this my Magic 4. And when I talk about Magic 4, I'm talking about 4 rods that consist of 2 casting rods for power fishing applications and 2 spinning rods for finesse applications. Those Magic 4 really get it done. If you look at what I have tied on, this is the basis for mostly all my winter fishing. I got a suspend and jerk bait, a Rapala Shadow Rap shad. I've got a vibration bait, a lipless, that's a Rip and Wrap by Rapala, and then my 2 finesse. I got a little Berkeley beat shad, an old Havoc bait they used to make, and I've got just a little missile jig. That's the new micro jig tied on. 2 finesse, 2 power rods. That's all you need in the wintertime. I always like to start with the power, and then if you can't get them to bite these moving baits, then you make the switch to finesse.
How long does it typically take for you to make that switch, Mike?
You know, I let the fish tell me. I mean, I can tell you this. If I'm out here for an hour power fishing, I hadn't got a bite, it's time to change. I have what's called an hour rule, which is when you're fishing, especially in the extremes, extreme winter, extreme heat, if an hour goes past and you ain't got a bite, you got to make a change. So I usually give the power fishing techniques an hour, sometimes less. I'm pretty impatient, but the fish will tell you. That's the key. Listen to the fish. These are the days when you can catch a big one, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they don't want to help us with these power fishing lures, we're just going to switch to a finesse bite. I think we're going to get some. I think you're going to eat today. I think these are the right conditions. There he goes! Big one! Big one! Big one! Okay, just got out here. Okay, he's choked out, but look at this. Okay, it's the wrong species, but I want to see you. I want to show you this. Look at this. Look at these conditions. And that's how they're eating it. Wintertime snowy conditions gobbled it. That's when you know you're throwing the right bait. Early into the day to catch a fish in the worst conditions you can imagine. I mean,
thing's gone.
You gotta have a pliers to get this one out, especially anything in the pike family. Number 1. The way you ate it tells you a lot, you know. In this particular lake, they feed on a lot of bluegill and immature yellow perch. So you get something that has a little chartreuse and yellow and orange in it. This has got chartreuse and orange in it. You're mimicking a lot of their forage base. This thing coming through the water looks a lot like a perch or a bluegill. So one thing with this vibration bait this time of the year, though, it's a little different. You know, in the spring you could do a lot more burning with it. But this time of the year, especially when it's cold like this, I do a lot more of what I call yo-yoing. I lift and fall. I lift and fall. You can almost hear it under the water. Next bait I'll go to, I'm gonna fish this a little bit. Next bait I'll go to is a suspend and jerk bait. Lipless and suspend and jerk bait are my 1-2 punch for power fishing this time of the year. It's really magic. Of course, a full-size jig I would throw in there. I would throw in a vibration bait like a Mullick's Lover. I'd throw into that equation. Tight wobble crankbait, but top two, lipless and suspend and jerk bait, no doubt. Oh gosh, nice breeze too. Look at this. Oh, one just slapped it, missed it. One just slapped it and missed it. And you're gonna get that in the winter too. A lot of times they just react, and they're not super hungry, so you're force feeding them, so you're going to get some slaps like that as well. It's freezing out here. Obviously it's so cold, it's snowing, and the thing that I like to do is I'll not only treat my line with reel snot, which is going to help me get a lot longer casts, and I do this periodically. I'll do this about every 30 casts or so, but also right here, this is key in the wintertime. It's going to go to each guide. You can already see these guides icing up. And I'm going to go to each guide, and then especially the tip. And I'm going to give it a couple sprays with that reel snot. This stuff's going to help those guides from freezing up. So longer casts and no ice in the guides. Now I go to suspend and jerk bait. A suspend and jerk bait is so deadly in the winter because it's one of those baits that sits in the water column. It almost neutrally suspends in the water column. And cadence is the most important thing. In general, the colder the water, the colder the air like it is today, the slower your cadence. But I'm going to reel it down about 5 or 10 cranks, and I'm going to put little jerks into it. Maybe try 2 with a 3-second pause. Try 2 with a 4-second pause. And one of the keys to jerkbait fishing, but especially in the winter, is to vary your cadence until you get your first bite. It's so hard to do because you're pumped up, you're psyched. But you really have to start to remember what that cadence was, how long that pause was. Were they little scrubby, little twitches like that, or was it a big jerk? Oh, I had one bite it, miss it. That's a good sign. That was after a big jerk. I don't know if you saw that. I did a little bit bigger jerk, and I let it sit, and I had one plow it right there. So you really got to let the fish tell you. So I got a response right there, which is good. So now I got to remember that. That was a bigger jerk with about a 3-second pause when I got that bite. So bigger jerk, 3, 4, 5-second pause, bigger jerk. And on any given day, it's going to be a little different. So you got to remember it. You got to keep altering cadence until you get that first bite. You catch that first fish, then you want to mimic what you were doing. And so I'm constantly changing. Constantly going to change that cadence around until I catch one. They're not out there roaming around near nothing. They're near a piece of... There he goes. Big one. Big one. Big one. I don't know. Look at that, same thing. Look at that orange right now is key. Talk about, look at that. Talk about having a color on there that makes them react. That's another one. That's another one that has simply choked it.